Victorian photograph shows a young boy in a wool suit sitting next to his little sister in a white lace dress. He holds her hand in a protective way and looks straight at the camera with an expression people once called proper. She sits completely still with her eyes gently closed, her head tilted a little as if she is resting peacefully for 138 years. This photograph stayed in archives labeled as adorable Victorian siblings, sweet, innocent, charming. That changed in 2023 when a museum curator scanned the image at 20,000 dpi and spotted something in the shadows behind the children. Something painted over, something hidden beneath the girl's dress. Something that explained why she never moved during the long exposure, why her skin looked different, and why the boy seemed to be crying. This was not what anyone thought it was. The photograph appeared in an online estate auction in March 2023, listed simply as Victorian Children Portrait circa 1885, Boston area. The image showed two children posed in a formal studio setting. A boy about 7 years old wore a dark wool suit with knee breeches and a white collar. Next to him sat a younger girl, maybe 4, dressed in a fancy white gown trimmed with lace. Ribbons were in her hair, and a small bouquet of flowers was pinned to her chest. What attracted collectors was the gentle feeling of the scene. The boy held the girl's hand softly but firmly, his fingers wrapped around hers. His face looked serious, normal for Victorian portraits where people were told not to smile. But there was something more in his eyes, something protective, almost strong. The girl looked calm, her eyes closed, her head leaning slightly toward her brother. Her face seemed peaceful. The photograph sold for $140 to the Boston Museum of Vernacular Photography, a small place focused on ordinary 19th-century pictures. Dr. Eleanor Graves, the museum's main curator, added it to a group of Victorian family portraits planned for digital preservation. When I first looked at it in person, I thought it was charming, Dr. Graves remembered later. A caring older brother with his shy little sister, the kind of picture that makes you think about family ties across time. The photograph measured 6 by 9 inches, printed on thick cardstock, the usual size for cabinet cards in the 1880s. The back had a photographer's mark, faded but still readable in parts, Mitchell Portrait Studio, Boston, EST, 1878. Dr. Graves started the normal digitization process in April 2023 with a special scanner that could capture details at very high resolution, 20,000 dpi, much more than the eye can see. High-resolution scanning often shows tiny details completely hidden when looking by hand. Dr. Graves explained that it reveals patterns, retouching, damage, or even faint pencil marks that have faded away. At first everything looked normal, but as Dr. Graves did digital restoration, fixing fading, adjusting contrast, removing dust spots, something strange appeared. First she saw the lighting did not match. The boy had light coming from the left, making natural shadows on his right side. The girl, though, had almost no shadows at all. Her face looked flat, as if light hit her evenly from everywhere. Second, faint vertical lines ran down the boy's cheeks from his eyes. At first, Dr. Graves thought they were water damage or old emulsion problems, but the pattern was too even and regular. Third, when she increased contrast in the background behind the children, a faint vertical line showed up behind the girl's back, something that should not be there in a normal studio backdrop. I started feeling uncomfortable, Dr. Graves said, small details that meant nothing alone but together suggested. Something was not right with this photograph. She decided to use spectral imaging, a method that uses different kinds of light to show hidden layers of paint, retouching, and changes invisible under regular light. What appeared on her screen made her feel sick. Beneath the surface of the photograph, hidden by 138 years of careful painting and retouching, was proof that this image was covering something much darker than a portrait of loving siblings. It was not a normal family portrait at all, and the little girl was not what anyone had assumed. Spectral imaging works by taking pictures under different light wavelengths, ultraviolet, infrared, and filtered visible light. Different paints and materials react in different ways, revealing hidden layers. When Dr. Graves used infrared light on the photograph, the girl's face changed. Under normal light, her skin looked pale but natural, normal for Victorian photos and fair skin in New England families back then. Under infrared light, though, her face showed lots of brush marks in areas where paint had been carefully put directly on the photo surface. Someone had physically painted over this photograph, Dr. Graves said later. Not the usual hand coloring done for decoration in Victorian portraits. This was corrective retouching. Someone was hiding something. The painted spots were mostly around the girl's mouth, nose, and near her hairline at the edges of her face. The person who did the retouching was very skilled. The brushwork blended so well it was invisible to the eye. But why would anyone need to retouch a child's face so much? Dr. Graves increased contrast more and zoomed in on the girl's lips and nostrils. Under the paint layer, a faint blue-gray color showed up, a slight darkening around the mouth and nose that the retoucher had hidden carefully. Dr. Graves showed the enhanced images to the museum's medical advisor, Dr. Paul Chen. That color pattern matches cyanosis, Dr. Chen explained, a bluish tint from too lit. La oxygen in the blood. It usually shows around the lips, nose, fingernails, and ends of the body. What causes cyanosis? Dr. Graves asked. Many things, Dr. Chen answered. Serious breathing problems, heart failure, very cold temperatures. He stopped for a moment. Or death. Dr. Graves felt her heartbeat faster. She went back to the photograph and looked at the girl's hands, still held by her brother. On the fingernail she saw the same faint discoloration, also painted over but clear in the spectral images. Then she noticed something else. The vertical line behind the girl's back, the one she first thought was part of the backdrop, turned into a clear shape when enhanced more. It was a thin metal rod or pole going up behind the girl's spine and disappearing under her lace collar. It's a support structure, Dr. Graves said out loud, even though she was alone in her office. They were holding her up. She zoomed in on the girl's neck and shoulders. Under the lace collar, faint marks from pre-sure appeared. Shallow grooves in the skin from something hard pressing for a long time. Dr. Graves looked at the background again under infrared. A faint outline of a person appeared behind the children. A human figure stood right behind the girl, covered in dark cloth that blended almost perfectly with the studio backdrop. Hidden photography, Dr. Graves whispered. It was a known Victorian trick used when young children could not stay still for the long exposure time. An adult, often the mother, would hold the child steady while hidden under black fabric, so they disappeared in the final picture. But this girl was not restless. She was not moving at all. Dr. Graves went back to the front of the photograph and looked at the boy's face again. The faint vertical lines coming down from his eyes, she increased contrast more. They were not stains, they were tear tracks. The boy had been crying when the picture was taken. And suddenly Dr. Graves understood exactly what she was seeing. This was not a portrait of two siblings. It was a memorial photograph. The girl was already dead. Dr. Graves sat in her office staring at the restored image, her thoughts moving fast. In the Victorian era, death was part of everyday family life. Infant and child death rates in the 1880s were 15 to 20%. Diseases like scarlet fever, diphtheria, cholera, and tuberculosis killed quickly and without warning. Photography, still fairly new, became a way for sad families to keep one last image of someone they lost. These post-mortem photographs, often called memorial portraits, were very common. Though people today find them upsetting, photographers used tricks to make the dead look alive, propping bodies in chairs, using hidden supports, placing them with living family members, and sometimes painting open eyes on closed lids or adding color to pale skin. The aim was to create a picture families could keep and treasure, a final moment before the burial. But this photograph was not like the usual memorial portraits Dr. Graves had seen. Normally those pictures were clearly marked as memorials. The dead person was posed alone, often with flowers or in a coffin. Families were not trying to hide the death, they were remembering it. This one seemed made on purpose to hide what it really was. The heavy retouching, the hidden support, the removed adult in the background. Someone worked hard to make it look like an ordinary family portrait. Why? Dr. Graves looked at the back of the physical photograph again under magnification. Faint pencil marks showed in one corner, almost gone from time and handling. Using better light and digital tools, she read the words, Claire and Julian, April 1885. Below that, in different handwriting and barely visible, last together. Dr. Graves felt a cold shiver. Last together was not something written on a regular portrait. It suggested final separation and loss. She contacted the Boston City Archives and asked for death records from April 1885, checking possible last names from the Mitchell Portrait Studio client lists. 3 days later she got an answer, a death certificate dated April 3, 1885. Name, Clara Elizabeth Langford. Age, 4 years 2 months. Cause of death, scarlet fever. Parents, Robert and Margaret Langford, Boston. There was also a burial record from Mount Auburn Cemetery showing Clara was buried on April 5, 1885. Dr. Graves checked the date against the Mitchell Portrait Studio records, digitized years before by the Boston Historical Society. On April 4, 1885, one day after Clara died and one day before her burial, the studio noted a session, memorial sitting, Langford children, 2 exposures, $3. The photograph was taken the day after Clara died. Her body was brought to the studio, dressed in her best white dress, probably the one she would wear in her coffin, propped upright with metal supports, placed beside her living brother Julian, and photographed. 7-year-old Julian sat next to his dead sister, holding her hand with. The photographer took the picture. The tear tracks on his face were not from trying to stay still during the long exposure. They were from sadness. He was saying goodbye. Someone, probably the photographer or the parents, carefully painted over every sign of death, turning a memorial photograph into what looked like a sweet sibling portrait. For 138 years the secret worked, until digital restoration showed the truth hidden under the paint. Dr. Graves wanted to find out what happened to Julian Langford, the living boy in the photograph. Using family history databases and census records, she followed his life. Julian Robert Langford was born November 12, 1877, in Boston, Massachusetts. He died March 3, 1956, in Boston at age 78. Julian lived a long life, living through both World Wars, the Great Depression, and into the time of television and atomic power. Census records showed he never married. He lived with his parents until they died in the early 1920s, then lived alone in the same Boston neighborhood where he grew up. His job was always listed the same, school teacher. Dr. Graves found a short obituary in the Boston Globe from March 1956. Julian R. Langford, 78, retired elementary school teacher, died peacefully at home. He was a beloved teacher known for his patience with students who struggled. He never married and had no children, survived by several cousins. Private burial at Mount Auburn Cemetery. Mount Auburn Cemetery was the same place where his sister Clara had been buried. 71 years earlier, Dr. Graves asked for burial records. Julian was placed in the Langford family plot next to his parents, and beside a small grave marked simply, Clara, beloved daughter, 1881 to 1885. The biggest discovery came when Dr. Graves contacted the Boston Public Schools archive, looking for pictures or records from Julian's teaching years. A school yearbook from 1938, when Julian was 61 and close to retiring, had a short profile. Mr. Langford has taught at Adams Elementary for 7 years. He is known for his kindness, especially to children who have lost family members. He understands grief in ways most adults forget. Attached to the file was a small black and white photograph of Julian as an old man sitting at a school desk with students around him. On the wall behind him, hard to see, was a framed portrait. Dr. Graves enhanced the image. It was the 1885 picture of Julian and Clara. Julian had kept that photograph on his classroom wall for decades, the picture of himself at age 7 holding his dead sister's hand, tears on his face as he said goodbye. The picture that had been retouched to hide death and make it look like a normal, happy portrait. He displayed it openly, and no one ever knew what it really showed. Dr. Graves felt tears in her own eyes. Julian carried his sister with him his whole life, through childhood, adulthood, and his work teaching other people's children. He never married and never had his own family, but he spent his life helping children, especially those dealing with loss. He understood grief in ways most adults forget, because he felt it at age 7, sitting beside his sister's body, holding her hand one last time while a photographer captured the moment. He lived with that photograph and that grief for 71 more years. When he died in 1956, he was buried next to Clara after 71 years apart. The siblings who posed together one final time in April 1885 were together again. Dr. Graves realized this was not just a story about a photograph. It was a story about love that lasted a whole lifetime. She created an exhibition at the Boston Museum of Vernacular Photography called Hidden Grief, Victorian Memorial Photography and the Art of Concealment. The main piece was the restored photograph of Clara and Julian Langford, shown with spectral imaging results that revealed the hidden retouching, the support structures, and the concealed adult figure in the background. The exhibition also gave history about Victorian post-Mo, RTM photography, scarlet fever death rates in the 1880s, and the ways people handled grief and memory back then. But Dr. Graves also included Julian's story. The census records, the obituary, the school photograph with the portrait on the wall, and the burial records showing he was laid to rest beside his sister after 71 years. The exhibition opened in September 2023 and brought surprising crowds. Many visitors felt shocked at first. Some parents covered their children's eyes, uneasy with the idea of photographing the dead, but others stayed a long time, reading Julian's story, looking at the picture of him as an old man with a portrait behind him, and understanding what it meant to carry grief for a lifetime. One visitor wrote in the museum comment book, "I thought this would be creepy. Instead, it's the most beautiful thing I've seen. He never forgot her. He loved her his whole life." The photograph spread online and started big discussions about Victorian mourning customs, death rates, and how people handle loss in different times. Some people criticized the parents for posing Julian with his dead sister, saying it was traumatic or unkind. Historians explained that Victorian families saw these photographs as acts of love, a last moment together before forever saying goodbye. They did not have videos, voice recordings, or quick photos. Dr. Graves said in interviews, this photograph was the only way Julian's parents could keep an image of their children together. After Clara died, Julian was an only child. This was their last chance to have them as siblings. Through family research, Dr. Graves found a living relative, Julian's great-great-niece, Anna Langford, aged 76, living in Vermont. She had heard family stories about Uncle Julian, the teacher who never married, but she never knew about Clara. Family history mentioned Julian had a sister who died young, but no one talked about it much. When she saw the photograph, seeing him as a child holding her hand and crying, it explained so much about who he became, she said, and donated Julian's personal papers to the museum, including a small leather diary he kept as a young teacher in 1901. One entry, dated April 3, 1901, the 16th anniversary of Clara's death, read, "I am 23 today, and Clara would have been 20. I think of her every day. I teach children her age now. I try to be patient, kind, gentle, the way I wish someone had been with me when she died. Grief never leaves. You just learn to carry it with love instead of pain." The museum added this diary entry to the exhibition, placed next to the photograph. The final display text said, "This photograph captured two children, one dead, one living. But in a deeper way, it captured what lasts beyond death, the love between siblings, the heaviness of loss, and the choice to carry grief with gentleness." Julian Langford held his sister's hand in April 1885. In every real way, he never let go. Victorian families did not photograph death because they were strange. They photographed it because love required keeping the memory. And sometimes that love lasted a lifetime and beyond.